Hi everyone, welcome to a new episode of the Genre Equality Podcast. I'm Peter.
I'm Hardy. I'm Aisa.
And this week we're joined by two very special guests. One, a noted playwright, Christopher Fok from Matter Theatrics, and Izyanti Asa'ari from the design agency Fellow. Care to introduce yourselves?
Hey, hi, my name is Christopher. I'm a playwright from Matter Theatrics. It's a collective where we try to do stories that are really untold and unspoken between people.
So where can people find you guys?
You can find us on Facebook, Instagram. We are right now in the works of producing two big shows next year, so we're quite busy.
Very nice. So do look out for Matter Theatrics next year. It's going to be a big year for them. What about you, Izyanti? What are you up to?
Hi, this is Iz. I have a design studio with a partner. It's called Fellow. We do recently a lot of exhibition design. So that is also sort of narrative building through space. So, and also been reading fan fiction since very, very young. It's more formative than proper literature.
Yep.
Interesting. Much like myself, both of our two special guests this week are huge fanfiction nerds. I started with Buffy fanfic, but I think Iz is more of a supernatural girl.
Yes, but only incidentally. I think the one that I started off first was Harry Potter / fanfiction, and that was before I think that's how I knew about gay people.
That was the mothership that departed from the harbor. I, on the other hand, started with Merlin, which is called Merthyr, which is Arthur and Merlin, and Steric, which is Styles and Derek from Teen Wolf. So that's where my roots are.
Interesting. As you can see, we have a large stacked panel of 5 big nerds here. 3 of us you usually know.
Yep.
The three straight male voices that we usually hear. Thankfully, we have a little bit of diversity this week, so yay for progress for genre equality.
Yes. Took us a year, but we're good.
It's about time we move beyond genre equality to gender equality.
What?
I guess we should invite like more women
Sure.
rather than like the one amongst the 4 guys. Anyways, this month we'll be talking a ton of zombie movies. Actually, this episode is a lot about the undead horde. I have movies about zombies that invade medieval Korea, Nazi-occupied Normandy, a Singaporean NS camp, and even modern-day Paris. Additionally, we will be discussing big franchise sequels like Harry Potter, well, Fantastic Beasts specifically, and others. We have horror anthologies, feminist witches, princesses of power, and I guess we'll be talking a little bit about Stan Lee's legacy.
Yes.
We'll begin, with myself, we'll be delivering a short eulogy to Stan Lee.
Yes.
Clearly the face and founding father of Marvel Comics, Stan Lee is the creator of literally hundreds of beloved Marvel heroes and villains, has passed away at the age of 95, sadly. I think it's safe to say that without Stan Lee, this podcast would not exist.
Yeah.
The world of genre fiction would be vastly different, and I dare say far worse off. More than any other creator we've mentioned or hailed or discussed or eulogized, Stan Lee changed my life personally. And I don't mean that in some abstract way, I mean that in a very fundamental, really changed my life way. I cannot imagine my childhood or adulthood without his works being ever present in my daily thoughts. You know, I'm that kind of nerd that thinks about the X-Men every day. He changed the way we look at heroes. Modern comics will always bear his mark. When other companies focused on godlike characters, I think Stan's major key to creating relatable characters was the grounded humanity of his superheroes.
Yes.
From X-Men's allegory of bigotry in the civil rights movement to Spider-Man's relatable coming-of-age story. He has powers, he has villains, he has homework, he has girlfriends, he has everyday problems, he has to make rent, you know. Stan's creativity didn't just resonate for its inventiveness. His narratives gave young readers such as myself a way to deal with harsh social contexts in an escapist, safe and intellectual manner. And as always, his infectious enthusiasm always reminded us why we fell in love with these kind of stories in the first place. So Excelsior, Stan, you will be missed. Anybody wants to say anything about Stan?
I think I pretty much covered it. Yeah, that was quite a good one, but we missed Stan just because of the fact that, you know, you're right, like he did do a lot for us with, you know, formative years.
There are creators and then there are people who inspire, right? And legacy is something that whenever we bring up legacy, especially in culture moving forward, right? Somewhere in there, people are going to be talking about Stan.
For sure. Unlike DC Comics, who never really did have a figurehead.
Yeah.
Jerry Siegel, Bob Kane, and all that, they aren't really known as the face of DC. Stan was the face of Marvel. And on that note, I did hear that he managed to film his final few cameos for movies, including Avengers 4, which I guess we're all looking forward to next year. So it's nice to see him on the big screen for one last time in the grand cinematic culmination of his vision that he created like 70 years ago.
I mean, he did make an appearance on Wreck-It Ralph too.
Which we'll be talking about very soon.
Yeah.
I actually myself have more to say about Stan Lee with our friends from the Last King podcast. So tune in to their podcast and their channel if you want to hear my discussion and the rest of the Last King podcast crew. We talk about his life, his legacy, his controversies. We can't talk about Stan Lee without talking about Jack Kirby, about Steve Ditko, and some of the shadier goings on. But it's mostly a very positive thing. Nobody's perfect.
Nobody is.
And in terms of Stan Lee as a creative, especially in the Me Too era, he's pretty much as spotless as you can get,
Yeah.
For someone who can go through like 90 years without controversy.
Like different kind of. It's more like financial controversy.
But in these days, it's a lot cleaner. It's a lot cleaner. First up, let's talk about The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. It's Netflix's TV adaptation, and much to my delight, it stays true to the comic book themes, the horror tone, the feminist themes of Roberto Aguirre Sacchese's acclaimed comic book. Though most fans would likely be more familiar with the 90s Sabrina the Teenage Witch sitcom, this version is scarier, moodier, and more stylishly atmospheric. It's a mix of frightening occult, Satanism, soap opera teen drama, and progressive gender politics that is pretty captivating. Let's hear the thoughts of our panelists. So let's start with Iz, who is big into magic, I guess, You're only doing like the magical. I just noticed you're doing the magical topics this month, so that's great.
The magical bits. Okay.
Yeah. So what do you think about Chilling Adventures of Sabrina? What did you like and dislike?
I like all the praising of Satan.
Praise Satan.
Praise Satan.
Yeah.
What I like the most about bringing magic into pop culture stories is how when it flips what we know as like the standard status quo of how we see the world. It's only when you keep talking about Satan as an everyday fact that you realize also how maybe odd it is that we praise the church and Jesus and other religious figures in our daily life. So I like how magic can do that in this story in particular. What I also really liked about it is also just the production design.
Oh yeah,
Sabrina.
Gorgeous. Yeah,
it's amazing, and it's also like similar to like the Harry Potter film world, right? It's so detailed and ornate that it feels grounded in real life, but also elevated. And I also enjoy how Sabrina as a character starts as very innocent, naive, feminist character figure.
In a naive way,
Yeah, so naive and so foolish and so stupid. but like then it gets even more complex, right? Because I don't know how much we can spoil. Can we spoil?
We'll have like a small spoiler section at the end, but for now I guess maybe just talk a bit more general.
Okay, so the general thing is that this particular series has clearly marked itself as diverse in terms of how it portrays gender, how it portrays race, and also sexual orientation. Right? It's very progressive in that side, and it was a bit unnerving to see how un-PC these stories were being framed.
Almost purposefully.
Yeah. So that it's very jarring, which is in a way the way like they praise Satan, like it's. And when I came into work after I binged it over a weekend, I was actually a bit nervous talking about it with my colleague, who is a good Christian girl.
A very staunch religious person.
Okay. Like like go to cell group like every weekend, that kind of thing.
Oh no.
How did that go?
Yeah, so I asked her like, do you think you will watch this like with your friends? Like it praises Satan like in every accord, And she said like, no lah, they should be okay with it. I don't think she's watched it. And I don't think she would watch the orgy scenes or things like that. So
was she already against things like Harry Potter, which has a more innocent view of magic? It is still paganism.
It is, but it's a lot easy to go with the idea of paganism when it doesn't come from the
Judeo-Christian text.
Yeah.
Your arch enemy.
Correct.
The enemy.
Correct. So I think this is a nice flip of a common script that I enjoy.
Interesting. On the flip side, like Isa also watched it. I think might share some of the same praises as is, but also might have some complaints.
I feel, first of all, I think we definitely need to establish that it's a CW show, true and true, right?
Just because it's on Netflix doesn't mean it's a Netflix show.
Yeah, so I mean, as with every CW show that we've covered here on the podcast, team drama, sometimes a little over the top, sometimes a little unnecessary in my opinion. But that is also of I'm much older than the demographic that they're kind of targeting, right? Even though we still love our CW dramas.
Oh no, yeah, I just watched it earlier now.
Sabrina is beautiful, right? And I think it's refreshing because, for me at least, I didn't get into the comics until much later past the original TV series, you know. So with all the humor that's going on in that, I really did love that. There was something that I caught every time it was on TV. Yeah. And then as I was older, I kind of like watched through it to kind of fill in the gaps for all the parts that I didn't catch. I love them leaning into the horror element. I think that's something that was sorely lacking. Like, I never knew that it needed that, right? From the original TV series, you wouldn't have been able to tell, like, okay, we are talking about witchcraft here, we are talking about demons here, right? But none of that is actually ever explored, and I think they did a really good job this time around. And just in general, we haven't actually had any decent series or movies dealing with witchcraft in quite a long while. Well, series at least. For movies, we still have like movies we've had a few.
It's hard. It's a tough line to demarcate because there are some shows like The Magicians and stuff like that. It is about a school of magicians. How do you tell what is a wizard, what is a witch, what is a
exactly?
magician?
I think
that's a whole other podcast.
Yeah, definitely. But I think the focus on witchcraft here is interesting, right? Because this whole idea of like needing to sacrifice something, to give up something in order to earn something back, and all these kind of very magic-based ideas, right, being examined specifically through the lens of the Church of Satan, or through the way that witchcraft is portrayed in Sabrina in this series is interesting, and it's something that we haven't had in a long while.
And also through the lens of patriarchy and modern society, and how if witchcraft did exist, how would it affect women and the patriarchy? How women would want to use patriarchy, or rebel against patriarchy. I'm sorry. For myself, I'm still. This is just a minor complaint. I'm having I had a hard time initially getting used to a grown-up Sally Draper doing grown-up things.
Sally, but it makes sense as Sally Draper because the child of Don Draper and Betty Draper would turn up messed up lah.
Karen Shipka is very good in this role. I still think of Sabrina when I close my eyes as Melissa Joan Hart. So I don't think Karen Shipka has overtaken that. But yeah, I guess it's still only one season. I love that the character isn't perfect either, because despite her noble female empowerment intentions, you know, trying to topple patriarchy in Satanism and in high school, sometimes it's set back by that condescending white privilege or white savior complex.
Is she the Lena Dunham of representation?
She's the Lena Dunham of Satanism. Which I guess is not that far off. And also the only minor complaint is I don't like how the show is shot sometimes, you know, that blurry effects. I think it looks kind of cheap and distracting. Some characters like Harvey's dad, for example, or some of the other secondary villains feel like lazy caricatures, whereas some villains are so fleshed out. Why couldn't they do that for everyone?
Agreed.
The show also feels bloated at times, like and 10 minutes could easily be edited out of every episode. Which is the downside of streaming's runtime freedom, because if the show was on the CW as it was intended, they would have to cut maybe 15 to 20 minutes of every episode, which would have made it leaner, tighter, and probably more enjoyable. And sometimes showrunners get too precious about the material on Netflix. Which is, you know, I've seen that happen on Ozark and a few other shows, or the Marvel shows that we've ever talked about. That's the case. I guess we'll jump to like quick spoiler territories at the moment. Starting with like, you know, you can spoil the show. What do you specifically like or dislike about it?
I thought one thing that was quite jarring about watching the entire series, or the entire season, like over a weekend, right, was what stuck out was how weak all the male characters were.
With the exception, no, Ambrose, even Ambrose, that's true. That's true.
Harvey's such a bitch, can I just say?
Ambrose?
He's whiny.
No, Harvey.
Harvey's
such a bitch. He's nothing.
He's nothing, right? And I realized after I thought about it, that the reason why it's so jarring that the male characters were vacant is because like normally vacant characters are occupied by female characters. So we're used to having some depth and logic and reasoning behind like male character motivations. So the spoiler here would be when Harvey finds out that Sabrina has brought back his dead brother
as a zombie,
and he's chill with it. That makes no sense whatsoever.
Well, he was upset for a while.
That was a minor upset. That's like I forgot about our date kind of upset.
I will be far more upset.
You know, I will freak out. This is like necromancy level of thing. That's not like, oh, I gave you like a memory spell for you to forget things, which is also already very problematic. Like
it's almost like a violation.
It is a violation of like your mental integrity.
Yeah, well, I mean, like going back to what we were talking about a couple of episodes ago. With Legion as well, right? With him wiping.
I thought the same thing.
Yeah, it's exactly the same thing, right? But are our attitudes toward it different, given the difference in circumstances?
It's a little different because what Sabrina did was make him forget a conversation. What then Stevens did in Legion was make her forget so he could have sex with her. That is objectively rape. So that is even more of a violation. But in which case, mind wiping and the ethics of that haven't really been explored outside of modern fantasy shows. Usually it was just a trope, you know. I think I remember like small things like Willow's girlfriend Tara being upset in Buffy, and it's like small things lah.
I think it's a witchcraft trope. Like you gotta talk about like memory wiping. It happens with every instance of like magic being part of the universe. Because I mean that's what we would all want.
Yeah, a convenient out, right? If we had the power to.
Like number one, flying.
Sure.
Number two, can wipe memory.
Yeah.
Do you have any specific things you want to say, Isa, about the story?
I love Ambrose as a character. As vacant as he is,
fun lah.
He's really fun, and I feel like he takes the place of what Salem was in the OTV series, right? So kind of like this overarching, like chuckle, right? And then amazing British accent on this. Definitely my favorite character on the show. Definitely one of the more interesting male characters on the show as well. But to your point, we do have vacant female characters as well, right? Very poorly fleshed out sidekicks, very poorly fleshed out main.
Are we talking about humans, like the mortals?
Yeah, we're talking about
so lame.
So lame. Also, Madame Satan. Was like that was a major issue for me. Like the acting was just piss poor.
Very cackly, ha ha ha.
And like I felt like it didn't need to be played that way. So I don't know if it's the fault of the script itself or the way that Michelle Gomez decided to play it. But I did not enjoy that at all. Like it took me out completely from the series. So anytime she's chewing scenery, right, I vacated. I'm out. You know, and I can't really be bothered. You know, but I think Miranda Otto and Lucy Davis did very well as the aunts. It got a lot more complex as it went along. There were a lot of these flashes of character that I thought were throwbacks to the original TV series as well. All of these things are really great. I do like how they set up and stack many of the witchcraft / magic tropes in a row. Right, the whole idea of like, okay, so the part where, what's her name? Asian weird sister.
One of the weird sisters.
The
main one, right?
No, the
main
Asian
one's
one.
Prudence.
Oh right, yeah, you're right.
So when Sabrina kills her and then tries to resurrect her, and this whole idea of I'm really smart, I know, I'm special, I've been set up to be like this satanic savior of some kind, right? And she uses all these loopholes that have been set up very nicely and very slowly across all the other episodes when she finally like kills the girl and then tries to resurrect her and then it all falls flat in her face. I love the repetition of that theme because it takes her a good 3 tries before she realizes and then succumbs to signing her name in the book. I do think season 2 will be a lot better with Sabrina actually turning to the dark side. It will be a more interesting show. For sure. I mean, her power level is a big problem. But then again, most things with magic have problems with power level. Like suddenly she can use Hellfire. Like how?
She's meant. I'm.
They keep saying she's special.
Kind of a spoilery thing lah, but she's meant to be a special servant of Satan. She's meant to be the Antichrist, so to speak. That's why he wants her so badly.
I feel like that's hard to believe because like the birthright thing, they just keep saying it, but we don't see actual proof.
Yeah.
Because we don't see like comparison of like other people's like magical abilities.
Yeah, take Prudence for example, who is pure blood, out of wedlock.
Yeah.
Still has that lineage, right, from Father Blackwood.
Yeah.
But at the same time, she's nothing to take notice of in terms of her magical ability.
Correct. But actually, what you guys don't know is Sabrina's last name is Dumbledore. No, I'm kidding. So how would you guys rate this particular show, season 1? Out of 10?
I'll give it a soft recommend. I give it a 6.
Yes, I'll give it a 6 as well. What about you?
I would give it an 8 just because it's such an enjoyable watch.
Yeah, it is fun binge. Yeah.
I think if you don't look too closely at the loopholes, the logic loopholes of everything, right? It's a nice treatment of feminism in pop culture and its problematic areas.
Yes, for sure.
And it's just a beautiful watch. That's also managed to be like scary and funny.
Yeah, I really did enjoy some of the scare elements, some of the horror elements.
It was so funny.
Yeah, I thought it was very good.
That's great. Next, we'll be going to an equally scary place, which is the internet. The long-awaited Wreck-It Ralph 2 sequel. Well, Wreck-It Ralph 2 sequel. The sequel to Wreck-It Ralph. Wreck-It Ralph 2, aka Ralph Breaks the Internet, is now out in cinemas, and we all caught it just last week.
We did.
While not as great as Wreck-It Ralph, in my opinion, it is still very entertaining and maybe a worthy successor to quite a flawless first movie.
Yes.
This time we'll be throwing it over to Chris. What did you think of Ralph Breaks the Internet?
I thought it enjoyable.
Yeah.
I found the starting a bit slow for me, but
to get going.
to get it going. But when it finally got into the internet, it was me exploring with Ralph and Vanellope the internet all over again, and just seeing what died after 1 year, after 3 years.
The visual representations of it were cool. So how they chose to represent pop-up ads and all that. You know?
Yeah, I liked it, and the avatar art direction of the whole entire thing as well. I pretty enjoyed it.
Interesting. What about you, Hadi?
Oh, I mean, I was looking forward to this film for a very long time.
You watched it twice?
Yeah, I watched it twice.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a free ticket lah. That's why I watched it twice.
Ooh,
Not
la-di-da.
Talk so much. You also get free tickets all the time. So anyway, okay. So obviously the Easter eggs is one of the big things there in Wreck-It Ralph 2. But what I loved about the Easter eggs, it wasn't the ice. It was just icing on the cake.
It wasn't a reference. It wasn't Family Guy. It's just like reference.
Correct.
Jokes.
Yeah.
If you want to.
There was still a very grounded moral story, at the end about friendship, about toxic kind of relationships that can happen from something that's very wholesome also. There are a lot of lessons learned. Obviously, I was waiting for the Disney princess scene, which was great, and it wasn't dragged out. It was a quick 5 minutes, I think.
Disney is leaving $2 billion on the table if they don't have an Avengers-style princess team movie, because that was the highlight of Wreck-It Ralph.
Right, that was kind of cool, right? Yeah. So all in all, Ralph is the new character. Yeah. When you look at the massive penis swinging Disney properties on display, right? Yeah. And you could see that how they integrated Ralph into this universe is kind of seamless,
Sure.
Which I kind of like,
Yeah.
Overall, I had a lot of fun with this movie. I did not fall asleep.
Interesting.
So that's how we. That's
a new part of our rating. Whether or not Hadi
fell asleep during Blade Runner 2049
because it was boring.
Oh boy.
Yep.
It's patience. Let's move it to Isa. What do you think of Ralph Breaks the Internet?
I think it was a good laugh. It was definitely not as neat as the first movie, right? Which was quite stellar in terms of its storytelling, in terms of its pacing, in terms of its character growth arcs, and all of that.
Near flawless movie.
Yeah, a near flawless movie. And unfortunately, we never reviewed it back then because we didn't exist.
We didn't exist.
So we didn't exist, and so
damn.
I think with all it's a sequel problem, right? Like how do you top something that's great? And the only people who've ever been able to do it are the Toy Story people.
Yeah,
which we are also
continuously.
So let's see where Toy Story 4 goes.
Yeah.
Given that there was a really fun trailer.
It is such a cute trailer.
It is such a cute trailer.
So cute.
I think Disney Princess scene, amazing. That dialogue in and of itself should be winning awards, right? For just how aware and how self-effacing it was for Disney to put something like that there. But again, because this 3 years in the making, right? Wreck-It Ralph. A lot of what has to do with the internet in that particular world is dated.
Slightly dated.
I don't know about slightly anymore.
A big portion of the storyline was about eBay, which isn't a thing really anymore.
Yeah,
Amazon is
right.
taking
So
over.
I mean, like we did see Amazon,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in the internet. We never saw things like Netflix and Spotify and all that, with good reason, right? Because those are properties that aren't related
Rivals,
to Disney per se. You know, but even with the whole idea of how they explore memes and virality and trendiness and all of that, it was a great commentary. But at the same time, it would only have appealed to people who had lived through some of those things. Like the internet forgets very fast as well.
Yeah,
sure.
You know, so like
they had a Friendster joke in there, but
Yeah.
I mean that's purposely.
They did.
Yeah.
But I mean, like for this movie, it felt more like a time capsule. I like things like eBay didn't even came to mind until they mentioned it on the
Like you
screen.
forgot there was an auction site.
Yeah, I forgot there was an auction site. So I was a bit confused when they went into eBay and people started bidding, and I was like, what are they doing? And then I remembered what eBay was all about.
yeah.
And we're all like older people. We've lived through eBay, we've lived through LiveJournal, we've lived through Friendster, so we know the trajectory. But even to us, it feels like a million years ago.
Yes, it really does. And I think it's interesting, especially for our particular generation, because we did go to arcades and play those games.
Yeah.
Right? And then now, and now we've transitioned into, you know,
The internet.
having entertainment via the internet almost exclusively, right?
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting in terms of how it appealed to me, and being able to see all these like things from our past, and now seeing things from the more recent past, right?
Sorry.
Yeah, so I think that was with me a lot of like nice inside jokes, plenty of Easter eggs, plenty of references, which I don't think I caught all of them. But I am actually very surprised at Disney's restraint. Just like Hadi mentioned, right? Like as much as they could have swung their giant Disney all over the place.
Look at Marvel, look at Star Wars.
I thought it was very restrained, and I thought it was very good. I was very impressed with the production value and the animation as well. I thought the voice acting was good.
Sila who does Rio.
Well, yeah, for sure.
It's not Pixar.
It's Disney.
Yeah. So overall, I mean, it was a good ride. Definitely not a great movie like the first one was, but definitely a good movie that I thoroughly enjoyed.
I mean, me personally, I felt that the crux of the movie and the thing that made it good rather than average was Ralph and Vanellope's maturing friendship. Their needs and wants are maturing in opposing trajectories, shall we say, and their friendship is kind of this very painfully changed due to mutual insecurities, which is kind of what the movie hinged upon. Within that lies, you know, the commentary about how online attention can breed anti-validation, can breed toxic behavior, especially amongst quote-unquote nice guys who just want to help their girlfriends.
The White Knight.
The White Knight, White Knight thing is a huge thing. So that's the smart part of it, but it's too small a part of the movie because it actually happens in the last third of it. And the first 2/3 of it is just kind of fluff. As fun as it was. So I guess I would rate this a 7 out of 10, which is good, but not great. How about you guys?
Yeah, I'm giving it a 7 out of 10 as well. I have problems with the trajectory emotionally, right? Especially near the end, where they have to pair all the action of the third act with the resolution of this very complex relationship that they had, right? It felt like an easy out for me, right? So like with all the adrenaline and all the action that's going on, and the fear of danger and so on and so forth, right? It's too easy that way, you know. And I had a problem with that. But definitely, I'll give it a 7. It's definitely a recommend for me.
How about you, Chris?
7 out of 10 as well. I concur. I feel like, especially Vanellope's and Ralph's relationship, during the first half the movie, I was looking for conflict between both of them, and I couldn't really find it. The conversations between both of them were so happy and so unified throughout the beginning that I was like, okay, so where is my drama? Where's the drama that I'm searching for?
Coming.
So like that.
It's on the way, lah.
Yeah.
Okay, a little too late, right?
Yeah, a bit too late.
Okay.
Yeah, there was no. To me, there wasn't the escalation and need for the steering wheel wasn't as great in impetus.
Yeah, for
to
sure.
me, as much I felt like it would have been better if maybe Vanellope had ran into the internet without Ralph, and Ralph is going there to go and search for her because she's there to go and get the wheel herself.
Yeah.
You know, that would have made to me much more dramatic sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about you?
I'm giving it an 8.
Oh, high score. High score.
I watched it twice. I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Yeah.
I also realized that I enjoyed the Easter eggs a lot. Like I said, but it's the icing. What I really enjoyed, though, I mean, I understand that it's a bit too long, but I actually enjoyed the build to the conflict because I mean, I also watched the last movie like last week only.
Yeah.
So to see that continuation, to see that how they built that relationship and why it's so strong and positive and all that, and you could see like little cracks along the way already.
Yeah.
Like you could see that Ralph was being a bit too pushy,
Clingy.
you know, and clingy, like how he wanted to do the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
And you know when Vanellope did mention that he wasn't enough and how he reacted to it. So there's already these bits of conflict that already happened at the beginning. So I felt that was enough for me to see through this entire relationship.
Interesting. Okay.
But yeah, I like the moral story at the end. I'm just annoyed that the last act was kind of the same from the first movie. You know, you had like a swarm of things attacking again.
Exactly.
Right?
It's also another vibe.
Though to be fair, it was really beautifully done though. The many Ralph thing. Damn son, that was scary shit.
That reminded me so much of like Paradise Lost, right? The whole like the writhing bodies, or even like in Hercules where they pick the river Styx and all the that was actually quite terrifying at times, you know. And all the while you have the drama playing in the
A bit of
foreground.
the Matrix also, you know.
Yes, exactly. You were
Agent
saying
Smith.
about the
Agent Smith.
and the machine god.
And the machine god guy. Yeah.
Speaking of hordes that come to attack you, next up we'll be talking about Overlord. Not to be confused with the enemy. I know a lot of you are fans of the enemy Overlord.
Yes.
This is actually a new J.J. Abrams produced movie from his obviously company Bad Robot. It's a hybrid of a classic World War II film with a gory B-grade zombie movie. So it's a grindhouse plus World War II epic. It's a strange hybrid, but I like it. It's directed by up-and-coming Australian director Julius Avery, who I've never heard of before, but he seems to have chops here. Set on the eve of D-Day, American paratroopers are dropped behind enemy lines to carry out a mission crucial to the invasion success. But as they approach their target, they begin to realize there's more going on in this Nazi-occupied village than a simple military operation. They find themselves fighting against supernatural forces, part of a Nazi experiment. Interesting premise. How was the execution? What do you think about this, Chris, who watched it with me?
Wow, I really like this movie. I'm a big fan of horror.
So glad you said it.
Gore. And I have to say, like the first 10 minutes of that film, the sound was the sound engineering of that movie was just amazing. It completely sucked me in.
Felt like that Band of Brothers episode 2, you know, the paratroopers
when they were dropping in.
I like that they didn't shy away from the World War II context of it, because I think that really brought me into the story even more because of my own general knowledge of what was happening during the war. So that was really great. Zombies wise, if I could call them zombies,
they're kind of zombies.
Kind of zombies, kind of not
experimental
zombies, or supernatural, demonic.
Super soldiers
kind of thing. I like it just brings to mind a lot of the games that I play, like Wolfenstein, you know, like that. It's just a really great action-packed movie. I think my mother will enjoy it.
I mean, I'm guessing since it's part Band of Brothers and part 2 days later, Hardy will love it too.
Oh yeah, I did. I mean, there was some minor like inconsistencies, but then when you realize, wait, don't think of it as a World War II epic, right? Cannot have the accuracies anyway.
In terms of the military strategy and stuff.
That kind of thing, lah. You know, like dropping one one stick of paratroopers to take and die. Never
No,
mind.
but they had a bunch, right? The rest were just blown up lines.
No, but they were specific to just do that. Okay, never mind. Anyway, doesn't matter.
That's true.
That was not the point. The point of it was beautifully made.
Yeah.
Right? They had just the ambience of that town.
Yeah.
You know, the
Sleepy French sound.
yeah, right? Like it was just so well done. It was like really, it was like kind of a video game vibe.
Yes.
Grindhouse vibe also.
Yeah. So, and I liked how it knew what it was. The movie knew it was this lah, and didn't shy from it lah.
Yeah.
You know, it had those really stupid lines that they were just blurt out and all that. But it was so perfectly done, right? And I had really nothing bad to say about this movie.
Yeah.
The pacing was great, right? The action was all over the place.
Even its campiness was intentional.
Yeah,
Towards
exactly.
the evil movies of the
Yeah,
era.
and you had that Nazi guy who was really evil.
Yeah.
You know, which was very great lah, right?
Played by Euron Greyjoy.
Yes, Euron Greyjoy.
It's just such a good bad guy.
Yeah, such a good bad guy, you know. And when you know his final form at the end and all that, and the big fight scene and all that, and that the self-sacrifice at the end is such good tropes that they pulled out and executed really well.
Yeah.
So overall, I enjoyed myself.
Yeah, I think it was a satisfying marriage of the grounded horrors of war, because some of the early jump scares were actually war-related.
Yeah, war-related, yes,
like
correct.
the landmines and being shot by snipers and stuff like that. Those are jump scares. Alongside the schlocky thrills of fighting the undead, which is what provides the movie its fun.
Yeah.
So it's actually the zombies fun war horror.
War horror, correct.
Interestingly, there have been many Nazi zombie movies before actually, so this isn't particularly unique. There is a Norwegian film called Dead Snow. Obviously the famed game Wolfenstein, which we've talked about. Plus the idea of spinning real-life tales from Nazis, their horrific human experimentation, and their rampant occultism isn't entirely new.
I mean, it was explored in like Indiana Jones.
That's how we get Hellboy.
Hellboy.
Kill Hydra, for
Kill
example.
Hydra,
That being said, Overlord does this concept better than most,
Yep.
despite some of his silly moments. Spectacular action, well-executed scares, gratuitous gore. I mean, I'm a huge gore fan. Effective body horror, actually.
Yeah.
Oh yes, I forgot about that.
Some interesting, solid characters. I do have to shout out Wyatt Russell, who I last saw in Black Mirror. He is Kurt Russell's son.
Yes.
He's gone out of his way to take roles that are so unlike his dad to set himself apart. Visual range, you know, in Ingrid Goes West, is this millennial. In Black Mirror, you know, in Playtest, you remember that?
He was the guy that was wearing the thing in the virtual reality.
Correct, yeah. But like this movie proved to me, like, let's get this straight, he could have his father's career if he wanted to.
Yeah.
He talks like him, he acts like him.
that growl.
He's the perfect young Kurt Russell. This is like Escape from Normandy, like Escape from New York.
Snake Plissken. What?
Snake Plissken.
Snake Plissken.
Yeah, this is just like Lieutenant Snake Plissken or something.
So he's playing like a grandfather of Snake Plissken.
Or maybe great
grandfather.
Because Escape from New York is way in the
way-
future. This is a weird prequel route that we've gone into. But anyways, I'm gonna rate this movie a 7.5 out of 10. I enjoyed it very much.
Me too. 7.5 out of 10.
How about you, Chris?
8, because my mother will enjoy it.
Yes, Chris's mother did not enjoy Zombiepura, which I will be talking about later, and we'll discuss why. And I would actually like to get your input on why your mother did not like it.
Yeah, definitely.
Next up, we'll be talking about probably outside of Wreck-It Ralph 2, the biggest sequel that's out this month. It is Fantastic Beasts 2, The Crimes of Grindelwald. I think Iz has a lot of opinions about this, so shall we begin with Iz? What do you think of Fantastic Beasts 2?
Because we all know that it's not a good movie. I think it's been said so many times that the movie is very arbitrary in its plot, so I don't want to go on about why the storyline is so lacking for obvious reasons. But I will I'll start with the fact that this was one of the movies where I was really thrown off by all those unnecessary 3D scenes. So we watched the normal one, right? So because we are too cheap for that. Especially for
$15 for this.
Yeah, I know.
No, thanks.
Okay, but the point being, right, it's like, okay, these 3D scenes are something that we see in all the blockbuster movies these days.
Actually, I didn't notice it.
I noticed it because for me, it's become a metaphor for how much the studio spends so much money on things that don't drive the story. It's not about the craft anymore. It's really about just selling visuals, which to me is the underscore of why all these or this particular movie sucks so bad. They spend so much time on the CGI of the Niffler and all the character design and all the costume design that it's distracting to the storyline itself, which maybe Rowling had a very skimpy anorexic screenplay anyway.
I'm sure she did.
Yeah.
She probably
dialogue
did.
isn't her strong suit.
Never has been.
Yeah.
And they know that world building is Rowling's strong suit, which we can see from the books in itself. So maybe they thought that if they add the Instagram filter of like beautiful production, it would save the movie. But I think as all Harry Potter fans worldwide have condemned the movie, I think we just feel betrayed, because this is when we start like really feeling that you're just taking our money, and it's a fandom that we love. So we just feel betrayed. Like there's a couple of scenes where it's just like Credence, played by Hizir's favorite actor. Not at all.
No, I truly do hate 3 of the actors in this movie. Johnny Depp, Ezra Miller, and what's his name? Oh my god, I hate him so much.
Eddie
Redmayne, yeah.
Okay, Eddie Redmayne's coat was fine, but Credence, right, as played by Ezra Miller, his costuming was so detailed for somebody who's playing an orphan child who is broke. And there's so many
kidnapped by the circus and everything.
It's so close-up shot, right? And all I noticed is the embroidery on his coat. And that kind of lack of restraint was something that was very jarring. That didn't appear so much in the original Harry Potter ones, where the costuming decisions, right, were on point. People who were meant to be slobby or like poor, show some rough wear and tear around the corners. Hagrid, right? You carry that. Yeah, you carry that in the costuming, and that kind of beautiful nuance in creative decision making was what really made the beauty of the Harry Potter movies. Because also, like, the dialogue in those Harry Potter movies were never its strong point. Anyway.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, some iconic stuff, but that's about it.
Very few.
As I said, some, that's all.
Question: how does Dumbledore go from a sharp-ass 3-piece grey suit, right, to the nonsense he wears later on?
Teaching.
Why not? I think
like when you become older, you're more comfortable and like, fuck that shit.
I just want to robe.
Yeah, I just want to wear robes. Man, that's what I'm gonna do when I grow old too.
And sparkle suits, like,
and just be in love with socks.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Correct.
Therefore,
I can see the point.
Alright. So that is. The movie is arbitrary.
It's
a very good point.
Yeah, I was talking about it with Chris earlier, right? And what did you say the movie was good for?
Oh, so the movie to me, I feel, is a good foundation for fan fiction.
Yeah.
I agree.
Just that it's like this giant tapestry of used cloth. For fan fictioners all around the world to just snip whatever pieces they like, to just take it and then go along with it. Because really, at the end of the day, besides attention to detail, I mean, like, plot, nothing to speak of. Characters, they might as well just be two-dimensional 2D characters.
The 2D characters we were talking about earlier had more heart than this.
Yes, really, seriously. Motivations were all over the place. I think at the end of it, my main gripe with it was Eddie Redmayne. Out of everybody
Kinsley's happily cheering
on the show, my main gripe was with him because I cannot stand his acting. Wow. I mean, like, for someone who has supposedly acting chops, he can't enunciate to save his life.
To be fair, he does that in almost all his movies.
Well, all his movies, and he has this particular look when he speaks, where his head will be down, and then he'll speak, and then he'll turn his head up towards either the right or the left. It's like his neck is a little pendulum that moves from left to right.
Shouts out to the great child actor who had to replicate those movements.
Yes,
because I think that child actor really did a good job.
Yeah,
One of the few notable cases of good acting in that movie. That being said, I do have to say Eddie Redmayne has great range in the autism spectrum.
Oh my god.
It's true.
No, I know.
I mean, this is not like a joke about autistic people.
No, I know.
It's a joke about how he only plays autistic people.
Or special people.
Or, quote unquote special people. On the spectrum. It's a PC way of calling it. Isa also caught this, right?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Oh man, where do I? Okay, first of all,
God
it
damn
should
it.
only be called Fantastic Quotes and where to get them.
Yes, thank you.
Because the quotes were amazing, right? Except for the poor few that had to go around prancing in like thin ass gowns in the middle of winter.
Or Nagini, is it?
Oh yes,
we're gonna talk about Nagini.
And everyone is just decked out in these amazing looking coats, right? And then these two poor women are just like they've got to fight in like a silk dress.
Nagini and Zoe Kravitz.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah, and that really kind of annoyed me. Acting wise, I mean, I think I hot Dumbledore, right?
And Jude Law,
Yeah, and Jude Law's very. I don't think he was given much to do with, but he definitely did whatever he was given justice, for sure.
He did good.
Ezra Miller, Redmayne, and Johnny Depp are all actors that we know. All you needed to do, right, is throw in Ryan Gosling and Keanu Reeves into this movie, right?
Got it.
And you basically be the bunch of guys like
Brooding,
just like brooding. Just brooding and like just mumbling everything.
I would have watched it if actually during one point in time I actually started reading the Chinese subtitles because I could not pick out what Eddie Redmayne was talking.
Maybe it's better in text. Maybe J.K. Rowling wrote it in Mandarin and it was just lost in translation.
maybe.
Oh.
What I do have to say, right, is that as much as Depp has been surrounded by controversy and fuck all the stuff that he's been up to in real life, right? Just being a giant asshole.
I thought the performance was okay, right?
The performance was a lot more restrained than I expected it to
I
be.
begrudgingly say this.
I thought he was going to Jack Sparrow the shit out of it.
Yeah.
And
Could
I
have
have
been
to
Willy
say,
Wonka.
yes, and I have to say that the only piece of the entire script that I found impressive was Grindelwald's speech.
The one, the Nazi speech.
Yes.
The Trump rally.
Yeah, the Trump rally. Amazing. I was not expecting that. I was not expecting how clinical and sharp it was and to the point it was. I was not expecting him to follow up with a light show that served his point.
Yeah.
Right?
That was quite cool.
But I'll be very honest, I can see why he has followers. I just wish that this whole
Johnny
idea...
Depp or Grindelwald?
No, Grindelwald.
Well, both lah.
Yeah. I just wish this whole idea of him having a silver tongue wasn't just like mentioned all the way at the beginning, and you don't see any of that all the way up to that point, right?
Yeah.
And then post all of that, it's just
Sorry,
sacrifice.
who mentioned that he had a silver tongue? Was it Eddie Redmayne?
No. It was the
guys,
president of the American.
The council.
Before they get the
Yeah.
Okay.
When they explained why they had to keep changing guards.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because the guards kept on falling for it.
Yeah.
Because all I could think of was that Grindelwald and Dumbledore. I could finally figure out as a fan fictioner, like, oh, so that's Dumbledore's type. He likes really sleek-looking twinks.
Yes.
That's his type.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's not
Also,
singing
like
anymore.
I mean
it-
really,
it-
Blood
yeah.
Pact, really,
I
like,
thought that was lame.
Yeah.
like, did they have to skip around it so badly?
No, but why did they do the blood pact in the first place?
Because
They
you
love
love
each
us.
other.
J.K. Rowling,
Thank you.
I think has continually failed representation, not just with the LGBT community, but also with other races. If you look at the people of color in this movie and how they were represented, let alone how she offhandedly one time mentioned that Dumbledore was gay and then refused to follow up on it in any tangible way in
Because I felt that it
text or
was.
in film.
Yeah. I feel that it was just a last minute decision still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess this movie is terrible, so I guess we won't spend too much time on it.
Okay, let's
we'll go around the table starting with Iz. How would you rate this and why?
3.
3 out of 10?
3 out of 10. Because I feel betrayed.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, how about you?
4 out of 10 because they added a few more new creatures. That's it.
Yeah, cool creatures. Yeah.
Cool though. Yeah.
Some redeeming factors, I guess.
Yeah,
I
the kappa
mean-
and the bathtub.
I
Which
think
didn't do anything.
the benefit of this movie is that it gave a lot of CG jobs.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Yeah.
last time also.
Yeah.
What about you, Isa?
I'm going to give it a 4 upon 10 just for the first 10-minute escape sequence.
Oh, that was great.
Yeah.
For the speech itself, and for the all the new creatures that were inside Newt's house that we see for the first time.
Yeah.
How about you, Hardy?
2.
2 out of 10.
Okay, this is because of the same thing. How Wreck-It Ralph had said that the Easter eggs and the tropes, all that were the icing. This was the opposite. This was using the Easter eggs as the story.
Yeah.
You know, they were so heavily. It was like hit you in the head. Look, that's Nagini. You know? Or look, that's Dumbledore's nephew.
Who knows?
Who the hell knows, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. Oh, look, that's Fox. You know, like god damn it.
Look what a crazy ending. That means you must want to watch the next one.
Exactly. So it was just like that's not how you build a fucking movie, lah.
Yeah.
So
do you think that J.K. Rowling is the new George Lucas?
Yes.
In a way, yeah, because of the world.
A prequel that destroyed his own baby.
Which is weird because the world building in both the Star Wars prequels were great.
Yeah.
In here it was great too. Just that there was no story.
She can't do sequels and she can't do prequels.
Yeah.
There's no story and that's the problem.
Interesting. Yeah. As for myself, I mean, this is a weird analogy, so bear with me.
Go ahead, man.
I guess whether you're pro-choice or whether you're
Life.
life, we can all agree that nobody wants to see an abortion on the big screen, and that's what this movie was. So it's a 3 out of 10.
Okay, not bad. Yeah. I get that.
Yeah, I mean, we can all unite and say that we do not want to see this abortion.
Yeah, we don't.
Yeah, you can have it if you want to.
Yeah.
You know, just do it on your own private time, which is your fanfic.
Yes.
Yeah, correct. And let other people who might enjoy it lah.
Yeah.
In the comfort of their homes.
I had to do a palate cleanser when I went back. Read fanfiction.
Boy. Okay,
What's next?
let's move on. We're sticking to magic, but this time we are leaving the wizarding world and going into Eternia. The reboot of She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, which only myself and Isa watched.
Yes.
Created by Eisner Award-winning author Noelle Stevenson, this new version of She-Ra is, I think, a more Steven Universe style of She-Ra.
Yeah.
Kind of emotionally complex, more diverse, nicely drawn, but it's more of a joyful pop fantasy than it is heavy metal fantasia that She-Ra was, you know, because She-Ra was related to He-Man back in the 80s. It's all about an all-female rebellion rejecting isolationism and oppression, and it's also about the complications of friendship, offering empowering representation for little girls, which the original She-Ra actually didn't do quite so well.
No,
because it was for little boys.
Yeah.
In fact, this would actually be great for kids and adults of any gender because it's such an affirming show. The series even wisely ditches the He-Man connections to let Adora and her friends kind of stand strong in their own rights. I think it is an improvement over the fairly one-dimensional source material, as beloved as the original She-Ra is. Given its deep stories about friendship, and this could grow to be as good as Steven Universe eventually. It is nowhere close.
Nope,
It
nowhere.
has elements of Korra, it has elements of Steven Universe, but those are all-time great cartoons. This is still finding its footing. I think the best part about the show is the dynamic between Adora and Catra.
Amazing.
Especially.
Yes.
It's heartbreaking, it's complicated, it weaves together so many subtle layers of resentment and love. On the downside, the series takes a little time to get going, and the first few episodes can get repetitive. Additionally, a few character introductions are done quicker than I would have liked, but by the second half, the story really gets gripping. The world of Etheria comes to sharp focus, and you see just how wide and open and unsexist it can be. What do you think about this show, Isa?
I love Noelle Stevenson, right? I fell in love with her work with Nimona and Lumberjanes a couple of years ago when I picked those up. Let's get the obvious out of the way. One of the worst theme songs I've heard in a long ass time, and just based on that alone, right, it has to. Oh my god, that theme song is just something else. But overall, I really did enjoy it. I do feel like even though it took a while to get going, there are a lot of very archetypal characters there. There is a lot of potential for sure. Adora and Catra's relationship was something that I wasn't expecting. The complexity and maturity and just the character motivations that come about from their interactions is I didn't see that coming. You know, I just kind of thought, okay, it seemed telegraphed to go in a very obvious manner, but it turned out not to be that way. I do like the character designs. I do like the way that the princesses are going. The fight scenes are actually pretty good, but they are too short in my opinion. And it's interesting to see all the powers and that the princesses have.
You know what's interesting is to see Shira use her sword, because back in the 80s she couldn't use her sword to cut anything. It was just a TV requirement. Because little kids can't watch her stab things but now she's like splitting tanks with the sword. She's not stabbing people because she can't do that. It's a kid show. But at least you get to see her use her sword.
She's swinging it around. What I thought was very interesting is that I never actually realized that when Adora transforms, she gets bigger in the original. That never occurs to me.
I think it's a failure of the animation that you couldn't tell.
Back then?
She's supposed to be 8 foot tall.
But in this particular one, during her magical girl transformation, which is amazing.
Which is cool.
Which
it's
I really,
very
really
Sailor
like.
Moon-y.
And I love the costume design. The new costume design is dope. I think
it's more, we're just talking about the girls in Fantastic Beasts too. It's better appropriate.
It's better appropriate. I mean, there's been a huge trend towards that. In geekdom right now, a lot of people are fighting for that. Batgirl has a totally combat-ready costume and all of that. So I love the new costume. Still looks fantastic. It's dazzling, but it is not whatever the heck she was wearing back in the 80s lah.
Yes, it was like a dress lah. Notably, a lot of male fans who grew up in the 80s hated this new costume. But you know the segment of the internet lah. It is what it is. We're not going to indulge them. So okay, how would you rate this out of 10?
I would give it a 6. I think that I would give it a 6 with the caveat that I think that there's a lot of potential. Steven Universe took a while to get going. This season 1 isn't on par with Steven Universe or Korra.
No.
For sure. Because those started off very, very strong in their first season. But I do agree with you that there are many, many elements that could come together for great potential and storytelling later.
Can grow.
Yeah, it definitely can grow. And so I'm looking forward to season 2.
Same time, I'm giving this a 6.5. It's a cautious recommendation. To me, I can see potential in this. I can see like this kernel of genius. That it, obviously, to say that it will grow to be Steven Universe is a bit a bold statement because very few shows are that good. But it can. Certainly more so than the Dragon Prince or other shows of that nature, which I don't see much potential in, to be honest. So this is a higher recommend than the Dragon Prince. It's a 6.
Definitely.
6.5 out of 10. Next up, we'll be moving on to a little segment I like to call Quick Hits, where I review the shows that nobody else has seen because it is my job to watch movies and TV shows.
And we got no time.
So first up on Quick Hits, I'll be talking about a local zombie movie called Zombiepura, which is a movie that I watched with Chris, not exactly with Chris's mother, but Chris's mother watched it as well. If we could ask her to join in, but she was unable to make this recording, so what you gonna do?
She was busy lah.
As a zombie outbreak overruns an NS camp, a malingering or chowking, as we call it in Singapore, reservist officer and his tough commander are forced to work together to survive. Written and directed by Jason Tan. This is Singapore's first ever zombie feature film. It's delightfully smart and quite cheeky horror comedy. It's a bit like a cross between Shaun the Dead and Army Days. Zombiepura is a fun undead romp that's elevated by quite well-drawn local characters with witty colloquialisms. It's a reservist comedy and a damn good one, but I'm not too sure how it will play to people who haven't experienced reservists, like people from overseas or perhaps Chris's mother. But from my perspective, this was a really funny, enjoyable movie lah. Do not be expecting a zombie movie. It is entirely an NS comedy. So I'll give it a 7 out of 10. What did your mom tell you about this movie?
She came in a huff and she greatly disliked it. I think she fought with my father.
Your dad liked it?
Yeah.
I mean, because NS.
NS. Yeah, but she did
and your dad's
not
a military
like
guy,
it.
right?
Huh?
Your dad's a military man, right?
Like he gets the jokes and all that.
He gets the jokes.
So you think your mother is the kind that would want a zombie movie to be a straight up zombie movie?
Yes.
And not any sort of subversion of the tropes?
No, my father and her basically sit down to watch The Walking Dead. And what's the other one?
Fear the Walking Dead?
Fear the Walking Dead. So they sit down every week to catch an episode together. And sometimes they shout at the TV about how don't go in there, they're gonna get you. That kind of stuff. Yeah, they're big fans.
They're kind of interactive horror people. I mean, they're fun to watch horror movies with, for sure. So, for example, like there is an upcoming zombie musical called Anna and the Apocalypse. They would not like that.
No, definitely not.
Okay. Are your parents into Korean epics, like ancient Korea kind of medieval dramas?
They did enjoy Train to Busan, but that's like just the typical zombie movie as well in that sense.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Train to Busan, the producers of Train to Busan, their new movie is a new zombie epic set in the Korean Middle Ages. It's a great premise. The movie is called Rampant. It lifts up to what it promises mostly. It's a little generic and lacking emotional engagement. Rampant is still worth a watch because it has Game of Thrones-esque political intrigue with the court and all of that. Mixed with swashbuckling action. Handsome, obviously it's Korean, handsome heroes, great action set pieces, good production values. It's an entertaining crowd pleaser. So I would just rate this as 6 out of 10. It's a serviceable zombie movie elevated by its premise, but turns out its premise isn't that special because next month another zombie outbreak set in medieval Korea is bound for Netflix. There is a series called Kingdom with the exact same premise as Rampant, set in the same time period, starring the same princess, starring the same king. Not the actors that's in those characters.
Yeah, I know, but
so it's one of those like like the Illusionist, Prestige, and Volcano and
Dante's
Peak and all of that lah. So these things come in twos. So it's a little weird lah.
But it's very specific.
The Joseon period must have zombies. They have the same, even from the trailer, there were a couple of the actors who are recognized from Rampant.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
So it is very strange.
Okay,
but the trailer is great though.
The trailer is great. Yeah,
the trailer is great.
It actually, for a Netflix show, the trailer makes it look like the series has a better budget than this particular movie. So I would look forward to Kingdom. We will be reviewing that in 2 episodes time. But for now, if you want to see Rampant, it's still in Golden Village. If you check it out, it's a 6 out of 10, so a soft recommend. Still keeping in theme with zombies, as I said, there are a lot of zombie movies this month. The next one I'll be talking about is The Night Eats the World, which was recently screened at the French Film Festival. Actually, I interviewed a guy by the name of Guillermo Lemons, who is the screenwriter for The Night Eats the World for Popwire. And on that note, I do have to kind of apologize to our listeners because I promised something last week which I was unable to deliver upon.
Oh no.
So we promised that we will get Guillermo Lemons on this podcast for an interview. The problem was I met him at Fullerton Hotel and his English was pretty shoddy. I mean, it isn't his first language, I understand, so we had to communicate through his manager, whose English herself isn't that good. So it was a very three-way, awkward conversation, which obviously would not be good for a podcast. It can't flow smoothly. I decided to convert it into text, so it's now up on Popwire instead. So do follow me on popwire.com.sg where I have other movie and TV reviews that are not about like witches and zombies and shit. But yeah, that Guillermo Lemons interview is actually pretty cool. Do check it out. He's actually adapting a new comic book called Lessons in Alls, which is an early comic book from France from the 1950s. It's about World War I. So that's pretty cool for Canal TV. He also talks about some other movies he's written and directed. Well, no, sorry, just written. Night Eats the World, and there's another movie called Just a Breath Away, which is a sci-fi disaster movie. But the one I'll be talking about is The Night Eats the World. It's about a protagonist named Sam, who falls asleep during a house party and awakens to find that the world has been overrun by a zombie outbreak. Realizing that he is one of the city's last survivors, he barricades himself in the apartment complex. And this Parisian zombie movie has, I think, more on its mind than brain eating. It's more about surviving the undead horde in isolation. So it's a movie about the horrors of isolation. It's about loneliness. It's closer in tone to Castaway than any other zombie movie. It's more about how he goes insane, being cooped up alone, how he's willing to cope with that lah. It's a near wordless story, so it's more like Castaway, like I said, than 28 Days Later, which is a unique spin. He even has his own little Wilson, which is a zombie that he traps and he talks to every day, and he makes conversation with.
That's the best.
Yeah, I like this movie a lot. The story is slightly, it's too slight for its running time. To give it a very high rating, so it is a very good psychological horror movie. I'll give it a 7.5 out of 10.
Not a bad recommendation.
Yes. Next up, I'm going to be talking about another French movie, but a different kind of horror movie. It's called Climax. It's actually distributed by Anticipate Pictures, which is run by Iz's friend, and I guess now mine as well, Listen Quack. It's a small independent film distributor, and it's actually screening this movie again at the French Film Festival. So Climax is a great movie directed by Gaspar Noé. Best known for his visionary, challenging, and quite upsetting films like Irreversible, like Enter the Void. The Argentinian filmmaker is back with a kind of a dance musical horror freakout that's going to be seared into its audience collective psyche. Aptly titled Climax, this latest movie finds the director, in my opinion, at an artistic peak with a literal and metaphorical pain orgy that encapsulates his trademark themes of sexual violation and body horror and stuff like that. We follow a French dance troupe as their winter rehearsal party in an empty dormitory turns from a jubilant celebration into a psychedelic meltdown because their sangria is spiked with LSD. What begins as this kind of kinetic, beautiful exercise of physical expression, the film's many bravura dance sequences are breathtakingly shot, performed, and choreographed to some awesome killer techno cuts. You should download the OST if you have time. It's a great techno soundtrack. But anyway, that all collapses as paranoid anxiety and the interpersonal conflicts are ratcheted up and acted upon in increasingly deranged ways. So, little small confrontations, arguments turn into fights, turn into mutilations, turn into killings and stuff like that. So it's pretty difficult to watch. Very real, very visceral. The sense of tension is ratcheted up. The sense of danger and panic as well. Confrontations are very claustrophobic because they take place in corridors, neon lit corridors, in bedrooms, and stuff like that. So it frequently flickers between sensual and sadistic, sexual and violent, and sometimes both. It's disturbing, it's disorienting, it's also hypnotic and mesmerizing because of the dance sequences. You can't take your eyes off this kind of hellish, hedonistic mass hysteria of a movie. So I do have to say that although it is shocking, he never shocks for the sake of shock. And this film's nightmare is society's collective delirium in a danceable microcosm. So there's a lot of allegory that you can take from it as well, exploring the meanings of taboos like sex, drugs, and death in violent ways. So this is a solid 8.5 out of 10 for me.
Wow.
Very high rating. Highly recommend it.
Yeah.
If you are unable to catch it at the French Film Festival, it is also available on digital and Blu-ray. So go to your iTunes or whatever is your local provider and go buy it. It's a good one. It is very R18 though, so make sure you're mature enough to handle or stomach this because it's a difficult movie to stomach.
Okay.
Yeah. Next up, we're talking about a TV show called Winona Earp. It's a blend of fantasy, horror, and western. It's a fun ride, and one wonders why it continues to be so underrated. Its titular character is the descendant of legendary lawman Wyatt Earp, and she battles a bunch of supernatural threats with a 16-inch barrel revolver called the Peacemaker. Now in its third season, it's a whiskey-fueled, queer-friendly tale of complex women saving the world. And in my opinion, it is the closest spiritual successor to Buffy that we have at the moment. It is a 7.5 out of 10. Next up, we'll be talking about an anthology, but a very localized anthology. It's a Southeast Asian anthology run by HBO Asia called Folklore. It's actually Asia's first ever horror anthology, can you believe it or not, despite our rich history in myths and tales. And it's mostly pretty good, despite being a little uneven as most anthologies are. It features 6 one-hour episodes directed by some of the region's best filmmakers, ranging from Indonesia's Joko Anwar. I recently reviewed his film Pengabdi Setan or Satan's Slaves, maybe it's not that recent, 6 or 7 episodes ago. One of my favorite regional horror movies that I've seen. Singapore's Eric Khoo is on it as well as South Korean filmmakers, Japanese filmmakers, Filipino filmmakers. The USP or the unique selling point is that it's rooted deeply in Asia's most prevalent supernatural myths. So anything from Pontianak to like Filipino phantasms and stuff like that. So these fighting tales have the benefit of hitting close to home because it's things that we grew up with. Its cultural specificity is what makes this anthology special. But as I mentioned, it isn't quite consistent. The most boring episode is actually the Japanese one called Tatami. I fell asleep during that one. There are 2 excellent ones that I have to point out. The first one is Nobody, written by famed Singaporean author Amanda Lee Koh and directed by Eric Khoo. It's a twist on the Pontianak tale. It's kind of it's affecting and it focuses more on human cruelty and about what happened to the Pontianak and why we have sympathy for it. There are some campy moments that took me out of it, but the character work and its foreign worker protagonist. I don't know whether you've seen Yellowbird, which is a great yellow movie as well. a great local movie, great yellow movie. It's a great
That's
local
a different
movie.
genre right there.
So it stars the same guy who stars in Yellowbird. I kind of forgot his name. The Indian actor.
The Indian character.
He's a fantastic protagonist, so you kind of follow him for a bit lah. But the best, the very, 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 very best is Joko and Anwar's one called A Marvelous Love. Joko is so next level, and from watching this episode, that he's clearly not just 1, 2, or 3 levels above the other filmmakers, including Eric Koo, who I love, but I said I mean sometimes. This is like 20 levels above everyone else lah. It's a story of a mom living in poverty and struggling to provide for her young son. It's an incredibly heartbreaking story, and it's about unloved children, about how this Indonesian creature called the Wiwi, Wewe? I know it's Wewe, yeah.
I think so.
Wiwi?
I don't know.
I'm not sure how to pronounce it.
I've never heard of it.
Perhaps it's the Wewe, yeah. So it basically adults children, but only after
I think it's the Wewe, you're right.
Only after it tricks the parents into giving them up.
Yeah.
So you follow the story of this woman who is a maid. She struggled so hard to provide for her daughter. She's kicked out of her house. She's squatting. Barely has any food to eat, and the kid is just kind of ungrateful sometimes, throws away food, throws that temper tantrum, like there's this scene where she just takes latte from the table and throws it at the wall, that kind of thing, and things that she has scripted and saved for. And then you can't understand why she's resentful of him lah. But at the same time, you also understand why he's resentful of her, because he wants a better life. His father could have provided a better life, but his father gave him up, and he doesn't understand that. Like he sees it as the mother took him away from the father. So it's a nice family drama, also a good supernatural drama, because once she gives him up, the Wewe abducts her and then she regrets it, goes to save the child. It's a very great, it's the best lah. It's a 9 out of 10 episode. Overall though, the show is only a 5 out of 10, because there are some really bad episodes like the Tami, some middle to good ones like Eric Koo's episode, and there's some truly great ones like Joko Anwar's episode lah. So do watch A Mother's Love, which is pretty much the best. You can find it on HBO on demand right now, so go check it out.
And HBO Asia has been like that. The track record's like 50-50.
Yeah, HBO Asia is no HBO America, let's just say it.
Yeah.
Next time we'll be talking about another horror anthology, but this time it's a season-long anthology. It's called American Horror Story.
Oh, the new one?
The new one is called Apocalypse Season 8. It is basically Ryan Murphy's Infinity War, because it crosses over it crosses over Season 3's Coven with Season 1's Murder House. So Apocalypse takes place in the west coast of the United States in the near future, following a nuclear blast that wipes out the world. So it's a literal apocalypse.
Chris, you'll love this.
It takes place in a place called Outpost 3. It's an underground bunker constructed in order to shelter specific survivors with strong genetic makeup. So only a specific people of a certain class can live there. There are vignettes of people reacting to the world's end that carried more emotional heft than Horror Story is known for. Usually it's very campy, and the depravity that follows the doomsday as depicted here is suitably chilling. Yet at the same time, it is Ryan Murphy, so there is a lot of sass. A lot of sass even in Apocalypse. Just greedy actors hemming it up with style. It's delightful, but its inherent campiness undercuts the realism of the horror just a tad, so it's a 7 out of 10.
Nice.
Next up, we'll be talking about a short story, a Star Trek short story.
Yes, Calypso.
Yes, so this Star Trek Discovery actually has a series of monthly short films
called Short Treks.
Yeah, called Short Treks, set on the USS Discovery. It's set in between season 1 and 2. As you all know from our second or third episode, I did not watch Discovery because I was quote unquote offended by its treatment of Star Trek. A bit of my Fantastic Beasts too.
Yeah, I know.
Hadi was a bit more open-minded, didn't he?
And I loved it.
This was you know how you all reacted to Last Jedi? Is how I reacted to Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah.
It's a perversion of everything I hold dear in my life. Yeah. The sacred text that is Star Trek.
But come on, this short story in particular is amazing. Right. As Hadi mentioned, it's entitled Calypso. It's written by Pulitzer Prize-winning author Michael Chabon. Do recommend his novel, The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay. Yeah. Won a Pulitzer Prize, so I mean, it's not just me recommending it. The fucking Pulitzer panel recommended it. Okay, so why I love this short story? It has nothing to do with Discovery. Yep. It's set on Discovery, but 1,000 years post the show, which is the furthest into Trek canon that we've ever gone. Been.
Actually,
yeah.
ever
gone through TNG, gone through Voyager, gone through DS9.
Yeah. So Discovery is set 10 years before TNG.
Yeah, correct. Not TNG.
Original series. Yeah, correct. And this is 1,000 years beyond that. So
so no way in hell.
A very isolated storyline. It's the story of a lone soldier who wakes up in Discovery's sickbay. The ship is abandoned except for an AI named Zora, who keeps him company.
Yeah.
And I say this definitively, this is actually the best Star Trek story I've seen. I've read in years since TNG maybe, since
I agree
the
so
early
much.
90s. It's an elegant and beautiful update of Homer's Odyssey, specifically a tiny passage in Homer's Odyssey where he takes refuge in Calypso and then he has a small little magical detour. Sorry, not Calypso, Isle Calypso. He's, the story of Homer, he's been kind of wandering out for a long time. A woman takes him in and falls in love with him. He's been traumatized and is now just trying to get home, but he has this strange magical interlude along the way. That's what Calypso feels like. It feels like the Odyssey meets her because, he falls in love with this AI that's talking to him. And a large chunk of it also pays direct homage to the 1957 Audrey Hepburn musical Funny Face.
With the dance
sequences and all that. So at only 16 minutes, this is very highly recommended because it's a short investment, a beautiful, elegant story, great acting. It's a 9.5 out of 10, the highest I've ever read.
I'll give it 9.5 too because of the fact that it doesn't have that baggage of old Star Trek. Right? It didn't have to carry all these stories forward. That doesn't matter. No Easter eggs, no nothing. It's just one guy falling in love with an AI. Right? So it's a good update to the Odyssey.
It's reasonable to assume because none of the AI we've ever seen on Star Trek were this developed, but this is 1,000 years in
it's a true AI in that sense.
Correct. It discovers love, falls in love with him. A bit creepy sometimes.
Very.
I did mention in my review of the Tick season 1 that Arthur actually falls in love with a sentient boat called Danger Boat.
Danger Boat.
The reason is weird because Danger Boat identifies as male, so it's not only a gay relationship, but Arthur is frequently inside him. So it's kind of this strange dynamic.
It is.
But anyway, before we move on, I do have to point out that Michael Chabon is producing and writing a new Picard series starring Patrick Stewart on CBS All Access. Fingers crossed that he doesn't die anytime soon. And I am thrilled he is getting up there.
Me too.
Let's just be honest about this.
Yeah.
He gave an interview where he talked about Michael Chabon, that is, his reverence for canon and the ideals of Star Trek, and it brought a tear to my eye. I'm going to read a quote of what he said about Picard and his vision for the show. Michael Chabon's quote: "I think we have this responsibility to continue to articulate a hopeful, positive vision of the future. I think if anything, that's more important now than it ever was when the original series came out. A positive vision of the future articulated through principles of tolerance and egalitarianism and optimism and a quest for scientific knowledge. To me, that feels fresh nowadays. Picard is the hero we need right now, and that's what I want for my Star Trek, not the fucking dark, gritty reboot that is Discovery."
Discovery is not. There is hope. But we'll talk about it next season.
That's fun, I think.
Yeah, me too.
Yes.
But
we'll bring you back for.
We'll bring you back for the Star Trek.
No, because I'm not going to be watching season 2. So
it's will cover.
The final one I'll be talking about is a new cartoon called Motown Magic on Netflix.
What's it about?
It's about an imaginative African-American boy living in Detroit named Ben. He has a magic paintbrush that he's able to use to go inside the colorful street murals of Motown, bringing to life the imaginary characters within them. So all these characters, all these paintings, all these murals are about classic Motown songs. So each episode's plot is inspired by the themes and characters in classic Motown songs, spurring kind of gentle adventures in learning and interwoven with classic Motown hits performed by contemporary artists. So this is a very slight, very kiddie, very enjoyable watch. If you have children out there, it's very nice for people between ages 3 to 6. I am clearly in my 30s, so I still enjoyed it. So maybe it is more universal than that. I do recommend Motown Magic. It's a 7 out of 10 for me. Only kind of 10 episodes on Netflix. Very quick, 20 minutes each.
Motown Magic, yeah. It is a very kiddie show. I do have to stress that. Nothing wrong with that.
Kiddier than She-Ra, kiddier than Hilda. The kiddiest show that we've ever reviewed on Genre Equality.
You ever reviewed.
That I've ever reviewed. Wait, what's kiddie that you have reviewed?
I don't know. Hilda lah. That's a kiddie thing.
This is way kiddier.
Okay.
Hilda is for kids like 6 to 12. This is younger.
But I can't want to watch it now though.
I know. Okay, now we'll move on to the last segment of the show. It's called the Pull List. Usually, either myself, Isa, or Hadi will recommend a book, a comic book, a manga, or whatever. Some reading material for you. This time we're gonna leave it up to our two guests. Let's begin with Chris. What do you have in your reading recommendations?
Okay, so I have been spending the last 4 years of my life trawling through the internet to read light novels.
Okay.
And I would like to... So light novels are basically web novels, periodically updated. The one that I want to recommend is from royalroad.com, and it's called Matter Chronicles by Uto Sama. So basically it follows this character, Gwen Song, awakes in a new world where all that she has been familiar with has disappeared and she must begin from zero. A 21st century tale of an Earth ruled instead by magic, where humanity lives in enclaves shielded from magical beasts and otherworldly beings. Follow Gwen as she struggles to once again rebuild her life in the new world, a tale of companionship, adventure, and spellcraft. And you'll follow her from high school to university, and finally onto the real world, discovering the secrets of real life of a real life world made unreal by magic and mages.
So it's a continuing long story, or
It's a continuing
series?
So it's a periodical.
It's a periodical. So basically, almost every week I would basically get maybe 1 or 2 chapters from this particular ongoing web novel. And
so old school.
Yeah,
what I liked about it so much is that it actually so this Chinese girl is living in Australia, and that's where the whole entire book takes place.
Okay.
And then after that, when she gets kidnapped, she travels through Singapore and then finally ends up in Beijing. And basically,
it's a
really long route. And what I like most about it is how this particular author has twisted a lot of the famous people in that particular 21st century and its history into mages. So like Chairman Mao was a fucking mage. Yeah. Even Australia and Singapore, basically that particular segment in which Singapore starred in this web novel, basically it was a fashion town, and basically they sold her out to China.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, sounds about right. So there's some very nice semblances of truth and political. And the thing about it is that in this particular world, there is stratification between the mages and the people who don't have magic, and everybody knows that magic exists. So basically, they don't have things like diplomacy, which is an interesting political structure to the world. So it's kind of cool, and I actually look forward to reading this almost every week.
Interesting. That's such a cool recommendation. Thanks, Chris. Where can you find this again?
Royalroad.com. So you look for the name Matter Chronicles.
Alright.
That's awesome. How about you, Iz? What do you have to recommend?
My book recommendation is a collection of essays that I picked up from Kino recently in the past month.
Nice.
It comes from... It's actually originally commissioned, performed and broadcast as part of BBC Radio 3's ongoing series called A Body of Essays. So this is a collection of non-fiction essays where each essay is dedicated to a specific body part. And the reason why I'm recommending it is because of how of how the individual writers explore the topic in a way that reminds me of our obsession, I suppose, with body parts. Like, I think earlier on, Hitzer mentioned the phrase the body horror, where the body becomes a separate entity that you are very prefixed by, and in a very weird and obscure way. So there's a particular essay in this collection that speaks about the bowels, which is a very odd topic that we don't really try to think about so much. And in this one, the writer talks about how at some point in her life she had a procedure done where a little bit of her intestines would be like sticking out of her abdomen. It was part of a medical procedure where then she would have to take care of it, and she would notice that it had its own moods and like behaviors that were separate from like your own mental will. And it kind of reminds me of how when it comes to like supernatural and magical topics, there is a sense of like the body behaving outside of your own more conscious thought stream, and that kind of weirdness, I suppose, is linked to like the unconscious. So like you start thinking about the abdomen as like the secondary brain and things like that. And there are some very moving essays about sight and hearing, or what happens when that sense is missing, and how that changes your reality as well, which is also, I suppose, like a inverse version of magical reality when you don't have sight, when you don't have hearing. So I think this is quite a magical collection of essays, to be honest. It's not, according to the barcode, it says it's under like popular science, but but it's quite literary in how it's written, and it's very personable, and it's a very fascinating way of understanding our body, which is probably also why people look at the supernatural as a frame of looking at the world, because you start thinking about things that we don't always consciously think about. So Beneath the Skin, I got it at Kino. It was published this year. So yeah.
Alright.
Yeah.
Awesome. That wraps it up for this episode of Genre Equality. We'll be back next month. There's 3 straight guys will be back with our usual 3 straight opinions. Regardless of how woke we are, we're still not that diverse yet. We are working on it though. But we will be talking about some major titles next month. Namely, Aquaman is coming out. That's a big one. Spider-Man Enter the Spider-Verse, which might actually sneak into my overall top 10 this year. That looks amazing.
It looks amazing,
We'll be talking about the big CW DC crossover Elseworlds.
That one, damn son.
We'll be talking about Bumblebee,
which I kind of looking for because hard hits.
And also a small crossover with hard hits because it stars John Cena. We'll be talking about my favorite movie of the year, or one of, Sorry to Bother You, which hopefully my colleague
Keith Stanfield, right?
Lakeith,
sorry.
From Atlanta.
From Atlanta,
we will be checking this out at the Singapore Film Fest. So we'll let you know what we think about it. I've already seen it because I got a screener. So I can tell you that it's amazing, it's mind-blowing.
Nice.
The third act is something that's one of the most unexpected things I've ever seen. I don't really get surprised anymore. It's a very jaw-dropping thing. Quick hits would involve a Filipino horror movie called Eerie, which is also at the Singapore Film Fest. We're talking about George R. R. Martin's new TV show, Night Flyers, which he is writing and show running because he is procrastinating.
He needs to make the money.
We've spent too much money talking about Winds of Winter. So let's not talk about that. It will come when it comes. But Night Flyers is coming out next month. We'll be talking about Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Can't wait for that.
I'll be talking about Titans, which I surprisingly like.
That one really.
Mortal Engines, and I would actually be bringing in a show that wasn't genre last year, but is genre this year.
What are you talking about?
An anthology show called Room 104, because there's a lot of shows. There's a lot of episodes about spirits. There's an episode by an AI and stuff like that.
I've only watched the 2 episodes you let me watch, so
interesting.
Okay.
And if Hadi has time, can you review Star Wars Resistance?
Of course, I've already started already.
So it's
I'm halfway done.
It's finishing next month. Star Wars Resistance is Hadi's alley, and I guess Isa's as well. But I think Isa's not watching it.
No. I'm skipping that.
Don't worry, guys.
I'll be doing an anime corner next month.
I got this.
Interesting. So that will just be a quick heart.
Quick heart.
We'll be back next month. As always, first off every month, look for us on Facebook at Facebook.com/Genre Equality Podcast.
And that will be our 13th episode?
It will be our 1 year anniversary.
1 year anniversary, guys!
Yes!
Okay.
So that's a special one. And of course, always follow us on Mixcloud. That's where we upload. That's where you get instant updates. Mixcloud.com/Genre Equality.
12 hours before our Facebook post is up. Right?
That's usually when I upload lah.
Yeah,
You need to tell them that.
No, that's why they should get the Mixcloud account.
We're breaking kayfabe here.
There's no kayfabe anymore. Kayfabe is dead.
I was trying to have some professionalism.
There's no professionalism.
Some mystery. Maybe follow us. Maybe we'll be upload earlier. Because sometimes I do upload a day earlier even.
Okay. That one only for Patreon users.
Fuck off, we don't have any Patreon yet. But if you want to give us money, message us for our Patreon. Till then, this has been Hit Zero.
I'm Hadi.
I'm Isa.
And
I'm Chris.
Is
and we'll have them back for sure next.
Yeah, definitely.
Till then, goodbye.
Bye bye.